These days, it almost feels like you can't escape the drama of the Saudi-funded golf league, as players continue to leave the PGA Tour in favor of the LIV Invitational events. And while the association suspended them from the tour, they're still able to compete in major events like the 2022 US Open. So in today's video, we're going to discuss why a PGA Tour ban doesn't bar them from having a go at these majors. First up, the Saudi League continues to divide the masses. Over the past few decades, we've seen tons of other competitors enter the golf space and try to dismantle the PGA from its throne. However, the tour has just been too powerful and has easily squandered any chance of someone else making an impact. The Saudi-funded Breakaway League, however, is a different beast in and of itself. Not only is it pouring billions of dollars into its events to entice top golfers away from the PGA, but it's also got a pretty clever top brass, including the Aussie legend Greg Norman. Oh, and of course, you can't not mention Phil Mickelson, whose move to the LIV Golf Series started this chain reaction in the first place. So it seems like the league doesn't have a leg to stand on. On top of that, they've also made it their goal to uproot the PGA's quote-unquote monopoly on the game by bringing fresh new ideas and attracting young audiences. And judging by the traction they've gotten during their first event in London, it looks like their plan's definitely working. Like, even during the 2022 US Open, it's almost felt as if everyone was focused on the LIV Golf Series and its implications. And the PGA Tour's ban hasn't stopped players from defecting. Now, to make sure that it doesn't lose its top players to the new billion-dollar entrant, the PGA Tour had to take some drastic measures. And that's exactly what it did by banning anyone who switched sides and left the tour to play on the Saudi-backed startup. Of course, we never really got a solid reason from the PGA Tour commissioner Jay Monahan, as it seemed like the players were suspended just on the basis of pure spite. For context, when the tour issued its initial statement against the LIV series, it included the fact that it's against the association's bylaws to take part in competing events on American soil. However, the first event never took place in the US, which makes these bans even more confusing. On top of that, there are also rumblings about how Greg Norman's scaling back the league to make sure he abides by the PGA's rules. So it's been hard to disagree with his stance that the association's unfairly deterring anyone who tries to challenge its monopoly. Like, if the PGA wants the fans to take its side, then it's gotta do more than just dish out blanket suspensions. With that said, despite the tour's efforts to dissuade any potential defectors, players are still heading over to take part in LIV events in droves. For instance, four-time major winner Brooks Koepka is only one of the many names who have recently joined the league after the whole suspension announcement. So why did the USGA allow suspended players to take part in the US Open? Of course, one of the biggest reasons for the PGA's tactic not working could be the fact that despite all these bans, players are still largely able to take part in other major events like the US Open. As a matter of fact, many LIV competitors like Dustin Johnson and Phil Mickelson did compete in the 2022 US Open, which obviously confused some fans about how that's even possible. Well, for starters, the US Open isn't run by the PGA Tour, so any suspension that they dish out doesn't apply to it. Instead, the USGA is the authority that decides whether anyone can compete in its events or not. Obviously, it doesn't mean that the tour's decision carries no weight to it. If anything, it actually pushes other competitions to follow suit as well. For example, just recently, the DP World Tour barred LIV Golf members from taking part in 2 upcoming events on top of handing out $120,000 fines to each of them. According to USGA chief Mike Wan, however, it's a slippery slope when it comes to stopping players from taking part in events. Speaking to the press, he said that they did have a long conversation about potentially taking some action before the US Open, but ultimately decided against it. Wan explained that it's tricky to ban someone solely on the basis of them playing elsewhere. Of course, he admitted that this decision wasn't gonna sit well with everyone, especially with those on the PGA's side. Continuing with his statement, the USGA boss also said that if they were to ban players from the major, then they'd have to go through every potential qualifier's playing history to ensure that no other players had involvement with any unsavory events. At that point, though, it becomes an almost impossible task to go through over 9,000 entrants and perform harsh background checks. Now, USGA chief is still open to suspending players in the future. Despite allowing players to take part in this year's US Open, the USGA chief still managed to throw a spanner in the works before ending his conference. According to him, there's a pretty good chance that the tournament could change its criteria for next year, which would potentially make it much more difficult for LIV Golf members to take part in it. Apparently, he sees a future scenario where the USGA also follows the PGA Tour and suspends players. However, with the situation being so volatile right now, it's difficult to predict what the future holds for everyone involved. In fact, Juan even stated that the LIV Golf of today is a very different beast from what it was a couple of years ago. Besides, things are moving so fast that it's almost impossible to see where we could be a couple of months from now, let alone next year. The USGA chief then bookended his speech by admitting that he's also saddened by the fracture that's occurring within golf due to the recent emergence of the LIV Golf League, and he feels that it's not a great look for the game to nurture this drama that takes the focus away from the course itself. Now, in other related news, Li Haotong completes his redemption arc with a title win. Chinese golfer Li Haotong has been through a lot over the past couple of years. In fact, at one point, it almost felt like he was going to quit golf and seek other adventures. However, almost 4 years after his last title win, the 26-year-old has made a massive recovery to complete a playoff victory at the BMW International Open in Munich. Haotong started the final day with a 3-shot lead over Thomas Pieters and even extended it to 5 with 3 birdies in the first 5 holes. With that said, things kinda started to slip out of his hand as he went on a pretty awful run of 4 bogeys over the next 10 holes, which allowed the Belgian to catch up to him. But all's well that ends well, as the Chinese golfer nearly edged out Pieters with a monstrous birdie putt, and obviously it got pretty emotional as he was on the brink of quitting the game last year. Speaking after his triumphant victory, Haotong said that if someone told him 10 months ago that he'd win again, he wouldn't have believed them. Thankfully, it seems like this taste of victory has reignited his passion for the game. You absolutely love to see it. Next, Ji Chun claims a 1-shot victory at Congressional Country Club. It's a week of comeback stories in golf, as Ji Chun also recovered from a pretty awful final day run to claim her 3rd Women's PGA Championship title. Chun started the final day 3 shots clear of everyone else. However, it didn't take long for her lead to collapse thanks to 4 bogeys on the front 9. In fact, Lexi Thompson even led her by a couple of points at one point, but she too bottled her chance of a win by hitting a bogey on the 17th. The Korean, on the other hand, was still hitting pars and a birdie here and there consistently, and as a result, she finished with a clutch 5-foot putt on the 18th hole to secure another par and her 3rd LPGA title. And Xander Schauffele narrowly wins the Travelers Championship. The final day of the Travelers Championship almost felt like a roller coaster, and Sanath Theegala exchanged places multiple times throughout the run. The world number 11 started the day off in the lead, but managed to squander it pretty quickly as he hit 2 bogeys during the final round. And at that point, it almost seemed certain that Theegala would go on to claim his breakthrough PGA title. However, it just wasn't meant to be, as the 24-year-old got stuck in a bunker and had to take 2 shots to get out, resulting in a double bogey 6 on the final hole. In the meantime, Schauffele was fully ready to pounce on this mistake, and that's exactly what he did by hitting a clean birdie to claim the Travelers Championship title. This is the 28-year-old's 6th PGA Tour victory and his 2nd of the season. That's a wrap for this video. Do you see any other top players joining the LIV Golf League anytime soon? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.